Hi, I'm Dave, founder of Halloween Around, and today I'm talking about the 2005 Wes Craven directed action quasi political thriller Red Eye. Yes, it's a departure from his normal, just straight up horror movies. This is one that he was more so a director for hire, rather than one that was a passion project of Craven himself. But it's a movie I really enjoyed when I saw it way back when it came out when I was in high school, and it's one that upon rewatching it kind of holds up and kind of doesn't. We'll get into it.
You tell the flight attendant and your dad dies.
What can I do for you?
She's just had a really rough day. A death in the family. Do dad a favor and stop gambling with his life.
Red Eye.
So to recap, for those who don't remember 20 years later, Red Eye follows Rachel McAdams. Her character's name is Lisa. She works at this luxury resort in Miami. She's on a red eye flight. That's the name of the movie. From Dallas back to Miami following her grandmother's funeral. She meets this charming, witty, handsome guy, Cillian Murphy, whose character's name is Jackson Ripner. I know it's not very subtle, but it works. It works. Like I said, it's schlock, but unlike Cillian Murphy, I don't see schlock as an insult. So we pick up with them on the airplane. They're in the seats next to each other. And surprise, the guy named Jackson Ripner is a bad guy. He's this assassin hitman guy. And there's a political figure. I think he's some Homeland Security United Nations. His title doesn't really matter. He's a MacGuffin who's meant to be assassinated. He's staying in their luxury hotel that apparently only Rachel McAdams and Jayma Mays works at, because we literally never see any other employees of the hotel for the entire movie. And Rachel McAdams is able to make these really big calls that only the manager of the hotel would make, not necessarily the concierge person, but I digress. So they've got this plan to assassinate him. It's not a great plan. More on that later, but ultimately, Jackson Ripner, I'm just going to keep saying the name because it's hilarious, wants Lisa, Rachel McAdams, to change the guy's room so it's easier for his guys to assassinate him. And if she doesn't, he's got a guy parked outside her dad's house and he's going to kill him. So in theory, we've got the makings of a really great thriller. And I cannot stress enough how much I love Rachel McAdams and Cillian Murphy in their roles here. They have amazing on-screen chemistry, both when they're flirting in the beginning, but then later on when they're enemies trying to kill each other. So there's a lot going for this movie, and it's captivating and genuinely thrilling to watch for the first two acts, which we'll get to. There's also it's kind of subtle, but it's a moment where Jackson Ripner, again, I love that name, tells Lisa, hey, look, you and I, we're not so different. We both are in customer service. We both have a client to serve. And if we don't serve that client, properly or to the satisfaction of what the client wants, we're going to be in big trouble. And I love the concept that he's not this, he's middle management of this organized crime hitman company that they're like, dude, did you get her to change the room? He's got a boss to report to who's going to be disappointed in him because he wasn't able to do it. And there's even a moment where, and I know this is a weird thing to focus on, but just bear with me. There's a moment where she wants to call her dad to make sure that he's actually okay. And he's like, all right, your dime. And he swipes her credit card on the telephone on the plane seat there. And it makes me think, so if that call was on her dime, does that mean that all the other calls he makes were on his dime? Does he have some sort of hitman organized crime, business card? Or does he submit hitman expense reports at the end of the month? Oh, well, this month I had to buy a giant knife to kill this guy with. I had to take a toll to get to this guy's house I had to kill. I had to use my credit card to make these phone calls and threaten people on the plane. So here's my expense report for the month. There's so many hilarious bureaucratic hitman organized crime questions I have that I know is so not the point of this video and not the point of this movie, but I can't help but laugh while thinking about it. So, overall, it is a very entertaining movie and it holds up for the most part. Let's let's get into it. Or let's get into at least what I love the first and second act. The third act loses me a bit, and I'll tell you why. Right from the beginning, the concept of Red Eye was to make, like I said, Phone Booth on a Plane, which, if you haven't seen Phone Booth, amazing thriller starring Colin Farrell, Forrest Whitaker, Kiefer Sutherland, directed by the late, great Joel Schumacher. That worked. That movie worked because the entire movie is in that phone booth. He does not leave it. You feel the claustrophobia. Buried with Ryan Reynolds works because the entire time we are with him in that coffin. Another movie that you have to check out if you haven't. Red Eye loses me a little bit because we leave the plane. Spoilers for a 20-year-old movie. The plane lands. She stabs him in the neck with a monster pen. Always fun. Like that final 20-ish minutes where it's a race to her dad's house and it's thwarting the assassination attempt and we're trying to save her dad, and then Jackson Ripner follows her and he's talking weird and raspy because there's a hole in his throat. All of that takes this movie from the tense edge of your seat thriller and kind of shifts it into more generic, forgettable action movie tropes. Not that there's anything wrong with those tropes in an action movie. If they're done well, it can be entertaining, but we lose something when we leave the plane. And I wish that the entire movie had stayed on that plane. And if it had, I don't think the third act would have lost me the way that it did. I'm also not as yes, as entertaining as it is to watch, her stab him in the neck with the pen. It just feels unnecessary that then for the whole third act, he's got like a tie around his neck, or no, it's a scarf he steals from somebody. And he's talking all right. He's like, "I'm here to kill you." And I get that they're trying to make him creepy, but it feels so forced. And Killian Murphy was already being so creepy on his own without any of that. And if Killian Murphy himself looks back on this movie with disdain, thinks it's not very good, thinks that it's schlocky, I can't help but think part of it is that entire third act where they basically turn him into a monster rather than the much more terrifying human monster that he's been for the rest of the movie. Also, I said I'd come back to this. The assassination plan is pretty terrible. So they need her to move this guy's room because, again, spoilers for a 20-year-old movie. Their guys are out on a fishing boat in the water and they're gonna fish. Like, okay, it's genuinely cool that like they use their fishing rods to pick up the weapon that's like in the water. Cool twist. But did it have to be in the water? Did it have to be facing that side? Could they not have done the same thing from the street and gotten his original room? And then there's no need to even put Jackson Rittner on the plane to send the guy to Rachel McAdams' dad's house to threaten him. Like, could you not have just cut all that out if your plan was to assassinate the guy and his whole family with basically a bazooka? If your goal was to assassinate him in such a loud, over the top, obnoxious way, could you not have done it anywhere? Could you not have hit his car coming from the airport? Could you not, like, ag- if your plan was to assassinate him quietly, I understand the need to be all covert and switch his rooms because maybe you have better access to that room if you're going to like poison him, do whatever, slip into his room in the middle of the night and kill him. But if your plan is to just blow him up with a bazooka, there's so many other ways to do that that you don't even need Jackson Rittner on the plane. You like it would negate the whole movie and have no need to exist. But the more I think about it, the more it kind of makes the whole thing fall apart. Overall, I did enjoy rewatching this. It did bring back fond memories of, my horror awakening that occurred when I was a teenager. And even though it doesn't all hold up, it's still enjoyable and fun, and I can't disagree with Cillian Murphy when he says that this movie is a B movie and schlock. It is. The difference is I don't see that as a negative. But these are just my thoughts. These are just my ramblings. Let me know in the comments. What did you think of Red Eye? Do you think it holds up 20 years later? Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may end up trapped on a plane with Cillian Murphy. Actually, that sounds lovely. His eyes are mesmerizing, but he's also trying to kill you. And as always, every day is Halloween.